Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and today I am back with another movie review. This time it's a movie that actually had its limited release this past weekend, and I think it's gonna have a wider release this upcoming weekend, and the movie is called Breathe. So Breathe is a movie starring Andrew Garfield, Claire Foy, directed by Andy Serkis, aka GAGA. So Breathe is about the Cavendish family, but mainly really about Robin and Diane Cavendish. And essentially it's the story about them falling in love, and then one day in the 1950s, Robin Cavendish falls ill to the polio virus, and the polio virus causes him to become paralyzed from the neck down essentially. And it affects him so badly to the point where he has to rely on a respirator machine to help him breathe. Hence the title, Breathe. And the movie overall really chronicles how Robin and Diane's family and friends deal with Robin's new disease and how that affects their relationship and affects their life in general. So now I'm gonna get into the movie review. So first I'm going to talk about the film's pros, the cons, and give my overall rating at the very end. So here we go.
Your life is my life.
I don't want to just survive. I want to truly live.
My love. My life.
Alright, so getting into the pros. One big pro, obviously, that I thought the film had in its corner was its casting. I love Andrew Garfield as an actor, and I think Claire Foy is, I'm gonna get into them more in a bit, but I just think Claire Foy is genuinely one of the greatest actresses working right now. But aside from the two main leads of the film, I think overall this film had really great actors and actresses in the film. I want to give a special highlight to Tom Hollander, who played two characters. He played the twin brothers of Claire Foy's character, Diane Cavendish, and I just thought he did a really great job in the film. Aside from playing two characters, his presence on screen provided really great comedic relief, especially because this film is fairly heavy. It was just such delight and relief to see him on screen. I also want to just give another mini shout out to the mini Downton Abbey reunion that took place in this film. I'm a really big Downton Abbey fan, and it was really great to see Hugh Bonneville and Ed Spielers, aka Lord Grantham, and James the Butler on screen together. My inner Downton Abbey fan just jumped for joy seeing them on screen. Another pro to this movie was there were really beautiful shots and interesting shots too. Throughout this movie, there's a lot of beautiful sweeping landscape shots to really highlight the beauty of the world around us. And I was actually watching an interview with Andrew Garfield and Andy Serkis and Claire Foy, and they were talking about Robin Cavendish's lust for life, because both Robin and Diane were people who were very passionate about just living life to the fullest despite whatever circumstance they may be going through. And I think the cinematography, particularly those sweeping beautiful shots of when the couple would travel to different parts of the world, just really captured the beauty of the world around us and the wonder and appreciation that the Cavendish family had for living their life. And I also additionally really love the point of view shots that were utilized in this film as well. There's a particular moment in the film when they are transporting Andrew Garfield's character out of the hospital, and you see from his point of view him lying down on the bed, and you see the point of view of him looking up to the people and his surroundings. And I just thought that was just a very interesting way of telling the story. Another obvious pro to this film was the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy. These two are great in the film. I really bought into them as a couple, and I think this film heavily relied on the emotional connection that these two characters had, not just in a romantic way, but in a human way, because what these two people endure as the film progresses, it's a lot. And I just thought they complemented each other really well on screen. All right, and my fourth pro, and I may be a little biased to this, is Claire Foy. Not to take away anything from Andrew Garfield, Claire Foy is so good in this movie. And even though you can argue that this movie really is his story, in my opinion, it is just as much her story as it is his story. And for me, the moments when I was most awestruck in Claire Foy's performance was in these great moments of tension and silence and stillness. One of those moments, and I think for me it was a turning point of this film, is there's a moment in the movie when Claire Foy and Andrew Garfield and their son are together in the living room, and the son is looking at pictures of his father, and he asks his dad if they can go to Africa. And then you just see Andrew Garfield's face drop, because at this point he's in the chair and he doesn't know how he's ever gonna travel the world again. And Claire Foy rushes to Andrew Garfield's side and looks him in the face, and there's like this great close-up between the two of them, but in Claire Foy's delivery of the line, she says, "I am so sorry." And it was in those moments like that where I just truly felt like Claire Foy is such a vision. Her eyes are so expressive. She says so much without saying anything, and she's just great. So if you're a fan of Claire Foy, like, I highly recommend you watch this movie just to see her really moving performance in this film. Alright, so now I'm gonna get into the cons. Even though this movie obviously had its strengths, for me, there were two really big glaring cons of this movie. The first con for me was that the pacing of this movie was just so strange. It was really weird. Honest to God, the first 30 to about 40-ish minutes, I hated this movie. It was really, really bad. Like, I think about 10 minutes into the film, I started checking my phone already for the time, and I saw that we still had about like an hour and 45 minutes left, and I was like, whew, this is gonna be rough. In retrospect, I feel like the reason why the first 30 to 40-ish minutes just didn't work for me is because in terms of pacing, it was really, really choppy. It's like the scene would begin, and before you could even settle into the scene and really begin to connect with the characters and what they're going through, they would immediately cut away. And it was like, what happened? Within the first 10 minutes of the film, Robin and Diane meet, Robin and Diane fall in love, and then Diane is pregnant. That literally all happens within the first 10 minutes of the movie, and there's nothing wrong with moving through story really quickly, but in terms of how they all piece all of that together, it just felt like they were rushing us. I think the reason why they were rushing through those moments is because they were obviously trying to get to the point where Robin falls ill, but because they rushed through those moments, by the time Robin falls ill, yes, obviously I feel bad for him, this horrible thing has happened for him, but I don't feel as concerned as I should be because I didn't get the time to really grow some sort of emotional connection with these characters. But then after like 45 minutes into the film, by this point in the film, Robin and Diane are now living in a house, and they've figured out a way to have Robin's respiratory machine working at home so he could live at home. Something happened at that point when I felt like the movie really started to settle in, and they started taking their time in the scenes, and because they were taking their time in the scenes, they were allowing the characters to really live and breathe. Haha, pun. And that's when I really started to enjoy the movie. Alright, and another big con that I had of this movie, and some people might think that this isn't a con, but I feel like the reason why I feel this way is because it has something to do with the very uneven, weird pacing of the film, but I felt like I was getting emotionally bitch slapped throughout this entire movie. In terms of like emotional pacing, I really felt like we were going from moments of happiness and lightness and like feeling so inspired to feeling god awful. Like, it was being literally bitch slapped emotionally all over the place. To name one specific example, again, be wary of spoilers at this point, towards the end, we go from a scene where Robin is giving this like very inspiring, moving speech about choosing to live, and then immediately after we see Robin bleeding from the neck, and it's just like, whoa, oh my god. And some people might argue that the reason why they chose to edit those scenes together like that was to show a stark contrast from how great things could be going for the family to the bleak reality of the situation. But as a viewer, this is again just my own opinion, going from a very inspiring, moving moment and then immediately cutting right after to a very dark, scary moment for the family. It was just very emotionally jarring for me to watch. So for me overall, the choppy pacing and the emotional unevenness throughout this film, it really confused me. And honestly, those two cons together confused me so much to the point where immediately after I walked away from the film, I was talking with my friends about our thoughts, and all of us were just very confused. Because as viewers, when the pacing and the emotional tone are a bit uneven, for me, it can be very distracting. Initially, I was honestly gonna give this movie a C+, and I think that might be surprising for some of you based on this review. But if you do end up watching the film, you're gonna see what I mean by the choppy pacing and the emotional bitch slapness of the film. But I'm going to elevate my rating to a B-. And the reason why I'm going to do that is really because of the moving performances as well as the moving story that this movie was just trying to tell. I'm genuinely glad that the story of Robin and Diane Cavendish was told on the big screen, because their story is so beautifully tragic but also uplifting and inspiring. Going into this movie, I think it would be really easy to compare it obviously to A Theory of Everything, but what I found particularly refreshing about Breathe was that I think a misconception when it comes to the stories of disabled people is that in order to overcome their condition, they're all going to live to become life-changing figures like a Stephen Hawking. But what I loved about Robin and Diane's story is that the triumph and the success was their choice to live in spite of this horrid disease really affecting their lives. I think this movie is inspiring in a lot of ways because no matter what your condition in life is, after watching this movie and witnessing this man and his wife's decision to look life straight in the eyes and say, hey, in spite of what is happening to our family, we are going to choose to live, and we're not going to let this disease debilitate our condition of living and our love for life. It really inspires you to do the same. It is a very moving, emotional watch. In fact, that lasts like 10-15 minutes. Oh my god, like, I'm just warning you now, it's really, really sad. Again, I saw it with my two friends, and normally my friends don't even cry, but they were bawling watching this movie. And on a more personal note, if this is the first video that you're watching from me, I made a video in May because my mom actually had a mini stroke. And there were some things that happened towards the end of the film between Robin and his son that I was like, oh my god, this is too much, this is too close to home, and I was like trying to emotionally block it because it was a lot. So again, I want to forewarn you guys, like, this is a very heavy film, especially towards the end. But, you know, I definitely still think it's worth the watch. And additionally, like, a really fun fact that you learn towards the end of the film is that this movie was actually produced by the son of Robin and Diane Cavendish. So I feel like that gives it even more of this like emotional depthness because it's so personal to someone that was so involved with the film. So that's about it with this review. Let me know in the comment section below if you've already seen Breathe. What were your thoughts? But if you haven't seen Breathe, let me know if you're planning on watching the movie, or after you watch the movie, come back to this video and comment down below your thoughts, because again, I just really love to know other people's thoughts on the film. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification button so you know when a new video from me comes out. And that's about it for this movie review. If you're new to this channel, I make videos every Wednesday and Friday. So as always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all in my humble opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!